Very much, Mr. Robinson. Next witness is Gregg Croteau. I hope I'm doing that reasonably well.
Yes.
Mr. Croteau is the Executive Director of United Teen Equality Center in Lowell, Massachusetts. That is a youth-led agency that focuses on gang intervention and peacemaking. In June of '06, he received the prestigious Robert Wood Johnson Community Health Leader Award for his leadership and gang peacemaking work. He has more than 13 years of youth work experience, and he has brought with him in our audience today Ricky Lee, one of the youth members working with his organization. We welcome you as well. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Senator Feinstein. It's great to be here. Great to be here with the panel. I'd like to thank all the distinguished members of the panel for allowing me the opportunity to share some of our thoughts on this critically important issue. And I say our because, as you mentioned, I'm here actually with three of our colleagues, Ricky Lee, who is one of our team members, Sako Long, who's our street worker supervisor, and Juan Carlos Rivera, who's been with UTEC from the very beginning as our street worker director. And I want to thank them because they're out there every day making the difference on the streets of Lowell as well. So it's great to be with them. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the federal government is absolutely on point in recognizing youth violence as a critical issue in our community. We have had to attend far too many funerals in our days as youth workers. Funerals have become far too much like regular events in the lives of young people. In fact, when we were at one of our last funerals, walking towards the gravesite of this 19-year-old man who was shot, I accidentally stepped over another gravestone. And as I looked down, the gravestone was actually that of another young man who was shot only weeks before that we knew. And looking up, I thought this is absolutely absurd, this is not normal, and we cannot continue to keep walking past these grave sites. So yes, we truly appreciate the committee's initiative in prioritizing this critical issue in our communities and agree that a major statement must be made to best address the violence too often found in our streets. For the past 7 years, I've had the honor of working as the first executive director for the United Teen Equality Center, better known as UTEC, which is a youth organization located in Lowell, Massachusetts. As a youth-led agency, we offer a range of services for young people ages 13 to 23, and our core values focus on peace, positivity, and empowerment. Soon after our establishment, we created the Street Worker Program. And in short, basically the street workers are out there mediating disputes, mediating conflicts with young people on the streets. In particular, our staff implement a peacemaking process with rival youth gang leaders that ultimately leads to the facilitation of various peace summits between opposing gang sets. We've had many success stories over the past years. One in particular was a summer when we were able to build relationships up with young people from different rival gang sets. The leaders of these gang sets, being able to get a commitment from them to get in the same van together and then be able to go in the middle of an island in Maine, actually kayak out together to the island in the same kayaks, and by the fire that night, they, not us as the staff, they were able to bridge a peace summit between these two groups that were previously shooting and stabbing each other. These stories are not unique for us. A major statement must be made to truly reduce the violence on our streets. However, we respectfully express our concern that this major statement, this unique opportunity to significantly affect change that lasts beyond the current moment, must include a balanced approach of enforcement along with intervention and prevention. As many researchers have commented, we cannot just lock away the problem. At the recent House hearing for H.R. 1582, the Chief of Police from Kansas City echoed this in his testimony, saying that we cannot arrest and imprison our way out of this problem. As indicated in a letter from the National Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Coalition, this bill quote-unquote, contains 23 substantive sections. Of those, 21 focus solely on creating new crimes, expanding culpability for the accused, and enhancing penalties for the convicted. Similarly, of the $240 million in appropriations the bill requests, less than 20% is allowed for prevention and intervention. Moreover, the proposed legislation actually only authorizes approximately $25 million a year for gang violence prevention services in communities across the country, such as Lowell, that will probably not be designated as a high-intensity interstate gang activity area. I sometimes think that the term gang problem is too easily thrown around. Perhaps it's subconscious, but I think it becomes more palatable and easier to pinpoint the problem by doing so. No community simply has a gang problem. This is not some type of medical model where we can identify the specific disease, i.e. the gang, that is eating the life out of our communities. All of the complex forces and rooted causes of gang-related violence will never be adequately portrayed when defining it with a singular name. The issues of poverty, racism, education, and other complex forces all impact the violence in our streets. There is no one fix, there is no one face, and there can be no one name that encompasses all of our concerns. That being said, we do have concerns that this new legislation takes a very broad approach to solving problems that are often locally distinct and community-centered. As Senator Kennedy mentioned in his statement on June 22, 2006, there is a one-size-fits-all approach to this legislation that is of considerable concern. From our experiences, it is incredibly clear that the gangs in Los Angeles are very different from the gangs in Lowell. In Lowell, we have Bloods and Crips living right next door to each other, and teens are not fighting over drug trade and territory, but more often fighting over perceived disrespect on differing colors. As such, the approach to best address this problem must also allow for the opportunity to be radically different. We know that intervention and prevention strategies can provide the hope that some young people have lost sight of. Without a balanced effort in these areas, the hopelessness that already surrounds too many young people will continue to grow that much stronger. There is no greater foe, no greater frustration than the sense of a young person who feels like nothing can change, who feels like their life is conjured into hopelessness. There is a critical problem in our communities, and yes, we need to make a major statement in our policies to best address it. However, we need to be very careful about getting too drawn into the sensationalism that too often surrounds gangs and believing that change is not possible
Could you
by young
summarize,
people.
please?
Thank you. We know too many young peacemakers that have successfully brokered peace between their rivals. Two of them are here today, and Sacco and Ricky. And if I could be very brief, Sacco, who spent some years in prison, came out of prison and made a pact with his mother because he didn't want to see his mother cry anymore. And now he talks with other young people with the theme of how to feel to have one less enemy on the street. And he does amazing work. And Ricky, who was moving in and out of foster care for years, found a sense of belonging in a gang. After years of finding now instant enemies, he made a decision that almost cost him his life, to leave a gang. He decided to get jumped out of a gang. And 3 years ago, in the process of being jumped out, he was beaten into a coma for 10 days. He has traumatic brain injury, but in his recovery, which has been beautifully over the past 3 years, he's now using his story, his opportunity, to create change and create and send a message of peace to other young people.
If you could conclude, please, you're 2 minutes
Sorry.
over.
So we seriously caution against any new policies that inadvertently risk deleting the success stories of Ricky and Sacco. We need more policies to help us strengthen hope. We thank you for considering our testimony. We thank you for considering the concerns around the one-size-fits-all, our concerns around increasing more funding for prevention and intervention, and we truly look forward to working with you. Thank you again.
Well, we do as well. I want to correct one figure. You said $25 million for prevention and intervention. It's $250 million for prevention and intervention in this bill. If I move right along now to Patrick Ward, is a 17-year police veteran and a detective in the Gaithersburg City Police Department. He currently serves as National Secretary and Executive Board Member of the National Alliance of Gang Investigators and is President of the Mid-Atlantic Regional Gang Investigators Network. Since 1994, Detective Ward has been assigned as Gaithersburg's Police Department's gang investigator, working with other state and federal agencies on investigation and intelligence gathering on criminal street gangs. Welcome, Detective.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. The pervasiveness of gangs throughout society is undeniable. They incite fear and violence within our communities. Gangs threaten our schools, our children, and our homes. Gangs today are more sophisticated and flagrant in their use of violence and intimidation tactics. As they migrate across the country, they bring with them drugs, weapons, violence, and other criminal activity. The acknowledgement of the issue and joint community and law enforcement response is our best defense. The National Alliance of Gang Investigator Associations is an alliance of 18 gang investigator associations across